All right. What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Bayou Bengals football. So let's get into it. So you feel like LSU playing Arkansas, you feel like if LSU can establish the run game against Mississippi State, you feel like that is so crucial to them winning this game. To me, it's just like the way Logan Diggs is playing. If Logan Diggs runs the ball effectively in this game, I feel like that is going to put a lot of pressure on Mississippi State or Arkansas's defense. Excuse me. They already put a lot of pressure on Mississippi State's defense. So Logan Diggs, can they establish the run with Logan Diggs, number one? And if they do so, that'll be a huge factor in them winning this game. So, can Malik Neighbors go off again? Is Malik Neighbors going to have that Jamar Chase-esh type of season where he's just that, like, there's just games where he just goes off and he's just such a dominant presence that it just almost really can will them, not necessarily will them to a victory, but it just puts so much pressure on a defense that, it's just like this guy could just really demoralize our secondary. I think Malik Neighbors, he is like a, Jamar Chase. I'm almost sounding like I'm putting Malik Neighbors on a higher pedestal than Jamar Chase, but Malik Neighbors, what's scary is when he goes off, it's like everything is just like all systems like it's just like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like an assassin who is just is going to kill the guy. That's Malik Neighbors. That there is just going to be, when the run comes, when he is in that zone, he's going to catch the ball, he's going to get yardage. Not that Jamar Chase didn't do that, but Jamar Chase was more of a slowly methodical, big play here, maybe next quarter a big play. Malik Neighbors, when his streak is on, it's just like the touchdowns and the yards come in like an avalanche, as an avalanche. So yeah, Malik Neighbors, he has a chance to really shine in this game. He has a chance to continue the stretch of terrific play. LSU linebacking core. So Spates still probable. Whit Weeks, I thought he filled in nice last week. That's what's so cool about LSU having Mason Smith back and still having high-end guys that can really go off and are true difference makers, because it really helps make guys like Whit Weeks, guys that need to fill in, that are young, that it helps them not have to really perform necessarily at a super high level to really get things done, or to still win the game. So Whit Weeks, I thought he filled in nicely. I think Mason Smith will have another really good game. We'll see. We're still waiting on that game. He's going to go off in one of these games. I know teams are doing just a lot of, or I assume teams are going to do a lot of things to prepare for Mason Smith, double teams, keeping a running back in the block, help from guards, help from centers, whatever they need to do to contain this guy. But also, there's just a guy this talented. There is going to be one of those games where he is just such a dominant presence. He does really flash his true difference making, not only from eating up double teams and making offenses scheme to stop him, but also by him. There will be the game where he just lights up the stat sheet. 2 or 3 tackles for loss, 1.5, 2 sacks. A game like that, you believe certainly is on the horizon for Mason Smith. Yeah, LSU at last check, 17.5-point favorites. And that tells me that, number one, a lot of people are fully invested and fully believing in LSU once again. And what it tells me also is people just are not really buying Arkansas two things to take away from this is, number one, people don't really believe Arkansas is a good team, and number two, people believe that LSU has really turned the corner and are going to continue to play at a high level. But that's the thing, it makes you wonder. Now that we know, I guess we thought that LSU could play this way, but now the question is, has LSU just been that good and they had one off half, and Florida State's also that good? Or is or is I guess I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess I guess the main question is Florida State just that good? Because if LSU continues to play that way, you know, you could really say they get this win against Arkansas. I kind of made this point last episode, but I'll reiterate it again. You could say that LSU has had really one bad half of football, and that is why they are, they have to win this game though. But they could be 3-1 in a bad half. That is obviously 3-1 is not 4-0, but 3-1 in a bad half is the third closest thing you can beat undefeated, because the second closest would be 3-1 in a bad quarter. LSU happened to have a bad half. Arguably the third quarter, I guess they weren't bad. So arguably you could argue that they've had a bad quarter, because fourth quarter is when Florida State really put it on. So you could argue LSU is 3-1 in a quarter, in one bad quarter, away from being 4-0. So LSU, a chance to, another game where I think this game will be big, but I think next week, if they win this, then I think if they beat Ole Miss, I think that's when LSU has really flipped the switch, turned the corner, whatever analogy you want to use to say they are back on the right path for winning ways. So LSU a chance to make a statement in this game. I'm super excited to see how they perform. It's going to be my first shot at Arkansas. Arkansas, kind of the same old story. Not, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just like, okay, KJ Jefferson, he's not an elite quarterback, but a guy that can beat you with his arm, beat you with his legs. You got Raheem Sanders, a good running back, arguably a really good running back, guy that can break tackles. Arkansas, offensive line, I haven't really dove deep into their offensive line this year, but they've been solid there. I'm not sure, the receiver core, and then the defense too. It's a tough, stingy defense. So playmakers on offense, tough running back, fairly stingy defense. But it's at LSU, which is a big advantage. So a lot of things in place for LSU to win this game. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But my guess would be, my initial feeling is LSU's not going to cover the spread. But I think if they don't cover it, I think they just go slightly. I think they slightly miss covering it. I think they win by 13, 14 points, something along those lines. I think they do win by a couple scores, but I don't know. Maybe I will pick them to cover. I think they do win by 13, 14. I think they win fairly handily. I don't think they win. It'd be hard to see them winning in blowout fashion. Just think about it statistically. What are the odds that you blow out two SEC opponents in a row? That's just not something that happens too often, especially two SEC West opponents. That's even LSU, the dream season 2019, there was not. Obviously there were weeks in a row where they blew out opponents, but it was not every week where they blew out an opponent. So, you look at Auburn was fairly close. Alabama was fairly close too. There's still some fairly close games. I know you could argue they won those games handily, but still it's not. To reiterate the point, it's still not that easy to blow out SEC opponents in back-to-back weeks. But yeah, so Whit Weeks, a linebacker. I'm excited to see Whit Weeks. If you remember Whit Weeks in high school, this was a guy that, tremendous athlete, a guy who probably could play running back at LSU. I think he does have a brighter future as a linebacker, especially when he bulks up. I think that's the problem with Whit Weeks, with him playing this year. That's not to take anything away from Whit Weeks. I just think that, in the modern era, with the pressure to play talented guys right away, which is fine. I'm for it. I made a take, challenging Brian Kelly about not playing young players. But in an era like this, I think that it's okay to I think that it's okay to play Whit Weeks, but also understand that he has some room to grow as far as, you know, just making the calls. It sounds like Greg Penn's going to make a lot of the calls. When I was listening to Greg Penn's press conference, he told Whit Weeks last week, I'll make the calls, I'll talk to the defense. But with Whit Weeks, it's about growing, maturing, learning how things work, getting stronger, adjusting to college football speed. It's the old cliche, he was playing high school football this time last year. So just a lot of things that need to come around for Whit Weeks for him to perform and get to for him to perform at his highest level. But, a lot of people have said that Whit Weeks has a bright future at LSU. And I think based on what you saw last week, if you didn't know anything else about Whit Weeks, and a little in the spring game, based on what you've seen, I think it's fair to say that Whit Weeks has a bright future. Especially, if you go out I guess the point I'm trying to make is if you just saw him play last week against Mississippi State, you could argue that he's got a really bright future. So look forward to seeing him perform at a high level. He's a guy that good tackler. Like I touched on, really good athlete, and he'll get an opportunity to play really well, hopefully perform really well next week. All right, so let's talk. So Greg Penn, Greg Penn, if you listen to my channel, Greg Penn's not a guy that, he's not one of my guys that I necessarily gloat about on this channel, but I'll say this about Greg Penn. Greg Penn is a guy that just seems to have a knack for making plays. There's something to be said about that. Greg Penn, people say right position, right time, but a lot of that is just, trusting your instincts. It comes with film study. So Greg Penn, credit him for understanding what it takes to be in the right position to make plays. And, him as one of the leaders on this defense calling out plays, that just really says a lot about his preparation, how hard he works. So I look forward to seeing how Greg Penn performs in this game. I know I say that about a lot of guys, but Greg Penn, the guy that's really proven me wrong, and I think that's awesome. So, Greg Penn, I guess, him, Omar Spate, Whit Weeks are two guys that, you get excited, watching their highlights, whether it's Spates from Oregon State or Whit Weeks from high school. You get excited watching their high school tape because the type of movements, the movement skills, are going to translate to them having success at a high level. But with Greg Penn, though, I think even though people talk about he's the most improved player, I think a lot of that is just, there was the deficiencies. He did not have enough up here to overcome a lot of the deficiencies in the movement skills. Now he's a little lighter this year. He's moving a little bit better, so that's helped. That's helped him. But to me, if you lack some of the movement skills, like he's got some stiffness, not the best in coverage. When you lack that, you're just going to have to be so on point with reading things, instincts. You have to be so on point in those regards that, I guess. To me, I don't think Greg Penn's a guy that's going to have necessarily a future in the NFL. But with the knowledge that he's accrued playing the linebacker position, and with dropping, he dropped 12, 15 pounds, and with the movement skills he has enough, and the physicality as a tackler, and the ability and enough ability to take on blocks, all those things combined, there's enough there for Greg Penn to have success at the collegiate level, and for him to be one of the leaders on this defense. So good for Greg Penn, proving me wrong. He's done a nice job this year. Was it interception against Grambling? Or was it interception this past week? I can't remember. But he's made some plays, and I thought, I thought he hurt him a little bit in the Alabama game. I don't like doing this. I don't, Greg Penn, I think he's a good guy. He's got a lot of charisma. He's fun to listen to when they interview him. But yeah, there's just, he does not, his movement skills just do not jump off the tape. But he's done a lot. He's really made the most of what he's really done a lot. And really made the most of his skill set, and he certainly has done a lot of things to earn playing time last year and to earn playing time this year. And if he really helps bring Whit Weeks along, he finishes, helps lead LSU to a SEC championship either this year. I'm not sure if he has any eligibility next year, but if he does that and plays a big role in that, he'll be remembered as a really good LSU player, and we'll probably have an opportunity to play in the NFL. We'll see what happens though. But yeah, the receivers, want to have a strong week. Once again, Kyron Lacy. I keep talking about Kyron Lacy. To me, Kyron Lacy he's a good receiver. I think kind of like, maybe the opposite of Greg Penn in the sense that, what's frustrating about Lacy is, the movement skills appear to be all there. It's just a matter of, can this guy perform at a consistent level? When a guy has all the movement skills, all the traits, it makes you really kind of question his work ethic. I haven't heard anything negative about his work ethic, but it makes you kind of question, does he really not have that killer mindset? Does he not love football? I don't, like with Greg Penn, I'm not trying to bash Kyron Lacy. I understand, I talk about some of the positive with Penn. I talk about some of the positive with Lacy. I understand that the positive these guys have in their game are enough where it can really help them shine. And those could be two, we talk about unsung heroes. Those could be two guys that could be unsung heroes on this team, because Mason Smith, Harold Perkins, Jaden Daniels, Logan Diggs, Caleb Jackson, they're all their difference makers. Not all of them are going to have, some days, there's going to be some games where the collection of all those guys are going to be just a little off. If you watch the show Swamp Kings, Florida, Brandon Seiler was injured and Brandon Spikes filled in. I guess, how does that relate to LSU? I guess the point I'm trying to make is, sometimes your difference makers are just not having their best day, or, the other team is doing stuff to contain them. So when you're the guy who's not getting the special treatment, like say Malik Neighbors Arkansas just wants to take away Malik Neighbors. Okay, Kyron Lacy, now here's your opportunity to go out there and put pressure on the Arkansas defense. Can you do that? Can you make a couple big plays? Can you stretch the field? Can you get the yards after catch? Can you get that? Say we're in a close game. Can you be the guy that gets open on a 3rd and long to help bail out Jaden Daniels? So, to me, Kyron Lacy, Greg Penn, those are two guys. I touched on, who was it? Gilroy and Penn. I think we're guys that are my initial unsung heroes. Those are two unsung heroes right now that could be key to a championship run. Because like Brian Thomas, to me, is a guy who, I don't think Brian Thomas maybe has the upside people think. I think Brian Thomas, look, and I'm not trying to, I'm sounding kind of negative in this episode, but you also need to understand some of the limitations. When you're looking at a team winning a national championship, you have to understand some of the limitations of players. Now, is Brian Thomas going to be a guy that can take over a game like Malik Neighbors? Is he ever going to be that guy? Probably not. But is Brian Thomas a guy that can go out there, get you 6-7 catches, be sure-handed, put some pressure on a defense, get open underneath, get open over the middle on a key first down, just be so reliable, so sure-handed? Can he be that guy? Absolutely. So Brian Thomas, what he is, but that's the thing, we know what Brian Thomas is. We know Malik Neighbors is a true elite difference maker who can just go on complete streaks where he's just utterly dominant. But yeah, that's the thing with Kyron Lacy. Will we see the potential in Kyron Lacy reached, or will he just kind of finish out his LSU career being kind of that, maybe that number 3 guy, maybe a guy that gets drafted, but, in the NFL, and hangs around the NFL for a little bit because, the NFL is asking for his, the NFL is really, wonder when's this guy going to reach his potential. Once again, not trying to dog Kyron Lacy, but that's the thing. When you're trying to win a championship, it's guys like Kyron Lacy, Greg Penn, they're not necessarily every game, but there's going to be a few games they need those guys to play. They're going to need those guys to play their absolute best game in order to overcome some of the difference makers being limited. So keep an eye on Kyron Lacey and Greg Penn as the season goes on. Keep an eye on them in this game. Keep an eye on if one of those guys has a really nice game upcoming. And then keep an eye on how Greg Penn really takes wet weeks under his wing. And, look for Greg Penn to call a lot of the signals out for the defense this week. And then Savion Jones, too. Savion Jones is coming along. Savion Jones is his first year starting at defensive end. Savion Jones, a super talented guy, was a fairly high recruit. Was one of the guys that really stuck with LSU, even though Ed Orgeron moved on. Brian Kelly's been complimentary of Savion Jones. Savion Jones, this is a guy who he's done exactly what I would hoped from Savion Jones would do. He's gotten better each week, and that's what LSU's asked for. We don't need Savion Jones to, I noticed this game he was just he's holding the point of attack against the run game. Even Jesse Palmer, Tessitore noticed that in the broadcast. And that's what they need from Savion Jones, okay? And I'm sure that's what the LSU coaching staff. We're going to be, okay, look, we don't need you to play here. That's what I would tell Savion Jones. Look, man, we don't need you to play hero ball here. Can you just hold the point of attack? Mason Smith, we got Mason Smith. We got Harold Perkins. We got guys that one guy that can fly the ball. We got a guy that can legitimately demoralize guys on when he's blocked single teams, and a guy that can eat up and take on double teams. So we got two guys that can do that for you. If you just hold the point of attack, we have two guys that can fly to the ball. Both of them that can get into the backfield. So if you just do your job, hold the point of attack, destroy the guy in front of you, and if you can get off if you do win at the point of attack so quickly you can get off the ball, but if you hold the point of attack well enough for us, that is just going to be such a huge bonus for us, and it's just the ultimate unselfish football that helps win a championship. So Savion Jones, that's doing exactly what LSU needs from him. They need him to just continue to get better and better, play at a high level, do a lot of excellent things for this LSU team. So really excited what he's done so far. Keep an eye on him. He's got a bright future at LSU, not only this year but also next year. So the running backs need to have a good game. Josh Williams has been as steady as they come at running back. Caleb Jackson, hopefully he gets some runs this week. That was an awesome job of running over that Mississippi State player. That was an excellent run. Running game's been so strong for LSU. Tight end, looks like Mason Taylor's not going to go this week, but Mac Markway filled in so well last week. And they should be able to count on Markway the rest of the season. Pimpton's another guy LSU has. So, LSU's got guys at tight end with Pipton, Markway. They've done such a good job of recruiting the tight end position that, Markway, Pimpton just filled in so well. And then, Ryan Yates got some good work at safety. The news is out that Greg Brooks did have a brain tumor he had a brain tumor removed. That's why he missed last game. But Greg Brooks, hopefully they get him back. Greg Brooks is a really nice player for LSU, but it's cool to see some of the young guys get some work. Ryan Yates, you saw Toviano out there. He's out there against Grambling. I'm not sure if he was out there this past game. But, super cool to see a lot of the young guys get some work at the safety position. So, LSU, heavy favorites against Arkansas. Hopefully they win this game, 17.5. I think the line opened at 18-point favorites. So, my initial reaction is I don't think LSU will cover, but I do think they win this game. I think they win probably by 13, 14 points. I think they're a couple points shy of covering, but certainly with the talent they have, they definitely, in the way, with the health of this LSU team, even though they're missing a couple guys, they still have some playmakers. They do have enough juice with the way they're playing to cover the spread. So 17.5 point favorites, I believe currently that's what it was. I think this morning or yesterday when I checked it. So, yeah, LSU opportunity to get another win against an SEC West opponent, move to 2-0 in the SEC West, and then move to 3-1 overall, moving, slowly turning the corner and trying to put behind the Florida State loss. So I'm going to wrap with that, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Bayou Bengals Football. Make sure to stay tuned for more clips and episodes from the show.